On a tense night at the Toyota Center in Houston, the golden and blue reflections of the Warriors' uniforms contrasted with the intensity of the local red. The final score left no doubt: Houston Rockets 131, Golden State Warriors 116. It was April 30th, 2025, Game 5 of the first round of the NBA Western Conference playoffs, and another challenging chapter was being written in the history of one of the most successful franchises in contemporary basketball. But what makes this defeat particularly significant isn't the numbers on the scoreboard or the game statistics. It's what came after: sincere, reflective, and deeply human words from someone who knows the taste of victory and understands that the path to returning to the top involves recognizing the current reality, however painful it may be. Steph Curry, with an expression that mixed frustration and determination, didn't hesitate to confront the situation head-on. "We're upset. Everyone in the locker room is trying to figure out what's wrong." This phrase, far from being just a momentary outburst, carries a fundamental lesson about leadership: the ability to recognize when something isn't working. No transformation is possible without first admitting that there's a problem to be solved. The sincerity continued to flow in the words of the Warriors' star. "We can't start games well, and mistakes on offense affect our confidence, body language, and energy." This technical analysis reveals a deep understanding of how physical and emotional aspects are interconnected in high-performance sports. Each technical error doesn't exist in isolation. It reverberates in the collective psychology, creating a spiral that can elevate or sink a team. And then, like someone who knows that diagnoses without action are just words in the wind, Curry added, "There are many things wrong, but we need to stop talking about it and start fighting to overcome this situation." This transition from recognition to action is where many leaders, teams, and individuals fail. It's easy to identify problems. The real challenge lies in mobilizing energy and resources to overcome them. The cameras captured the moment. Curry wasn't speaking just as a frustrated athlete after a defeat. He was speaking as someone who carries the weight of responsibility and expectation. His eyes, always expressive, revealed a mixture of determination and vulnerability that we rarely see in elite athletes in front of cameras. Perhaps it's this combination that makes his insights so valuable beyond the courts. The Warriors' locker room after the game was a space for introspection. Gone were the celebrations and smiles of past achievements. Now, each player faced their own moment of truth. In one corner, assistant coaches analyzed spreadsheets and videos, seeking technical answers. In another, veterans consoled young talents, reminding them that defeats are part of the journey. At the center of all this, the silent leadership of those who have already experienced similar moments and found paths to overcome them. "It's hard for anyone to try to find a rhythm and know what will be asked to do," continued Curry, addressing a tactical aspect that revealed the complexity of the situation. "In the first quarter, in the second quarter, did we have to use 13 players? That's difficult." This observation goes beyond simple criticism. It's a recognition that complex solutions can, paradoxically, create new problems. The search for immediate answers through constant tactical changes can compromise cohesion and the natural flow of the game. When Curry adds, "We are a unique team, it's a unique situation," he reminds us that each challenge has its own context. There are no universal formulas for success. What worked in the past may not be the answer for the present. This ability to contextualize problems and solutions is a mark of emotional and intellectual maturity that transcends sport. Perhaps the most powerful moment of the interview was when Curry, looking directly at the camera, declared, I think we all have to look in the mirror and figure out what, individually, we can do better. This phrase encapsulates a universal truth. Collective transformation begins with individual responsibility. Before pointing fingers or seeking external culprits, each person needs to make their own honest assessment. The metaphorical mirror, mentioned by Curry, is a powerful tool for self-knowledge. It's no coincidence that ancient cultures saw in reflection a door to the soul. When we truly look at ourselves, without filters or self-deception, we create the necessary space for growth and evolution. A basketball team, like any human group, can only evolve to the extent that its members are willing to engage in this exercise of self-reflection. As the lights at the Toyota Center went out and journalists put away their equipment, Curry's words continued to echo. They weren't just post-game statements, they were seeds of a mindset that can transform defeats into springboards for future success. The Warriors left the court carrying not only the weight of defeat, but also the responsibility of honoring their own words. The next hours and days will be decisive. Will this be just another well-intentioned speech that evaporates with time, or the beginning of a true transformation? In the team's training facilities, away from the spotlight and immediate pressure of games, the real work begins. Video sessions to analyze specific errors, individual conversations between coaches and players, personalized exercises to correct technical deficiencies, physical conditioning sessions to ensure that fatigue isn't a factor in decisive moments, and, perhaps most importantly, honest dialogues about expectations, roles, and responsibilities. The history of sport is full of teams that have transformed moments of crisis into opportunities for growth. The greatest champions aren't those who never fall, but those who learn to get up with more wisdom after each fall. Michael Jordan's Chicago Bulls suffered years of painful defeats to the Detroit Pistons before building their dynasty. The Warriors themselves tasted the bitter flavor of defeat before emerging as one of the great teams in modern NBA history. What makes these teams special isn't just the individual talent of their players, but the collective culture they develop. A culture that embraces challenges, that sees in difficulties not insurmountable obstacles, but opportunities for evolution. A culture that balances the demand for excellence with the understanding that growth rarely occurs in a straight line. Curry's words after that defeat reveal precisely the foundations of this culture. First, the brutal honesty in confronting reality. We're upset. Then, the specific recognition of problems. We can't start games well. Next, understanding the interconnection between technical and emotional aspects. Mistakes on offense affect our confidence, body language, and energy. And finally, the call to action. We need to stop talking about it and start fighting to overcome this situation. This progression, from awareness to analysis, and from analysis to action, is a script not only for overcoming a sports defeat, but for facing any significant challenge in life. Whether a professional loss, a setback in studies, a family problem, or a personal crisis, the path to overcoming follows similar steps. The impact of these lessons goes far beyond basketball courts. In an increasingly complex and challenging world, where personal, professional, and collective crises multiply, having references of resilience and overcoming becomes vital. When we see idols like Steph Curry exposing vulnerabilities and pointing out ways to transform them into strength, we gain not only momentary inspiration, but practical tools for our own battles. For the student facing academic difficulties, for the professional dealing with obstacles in their career, for the entrepreneur facing setbacks in their business, for the person fighting against physical or mental health problems, all can extract valuable lessons from the mindset expressed in that post-game interview. recognizing the problem without letting it define you, analyzing causes without falling into the trap of sterile blame, understanding the complexity of the situation without using it as an excuse for inaction, assuming individual responsibility without losing sight of the collective context, and, above all, transforming words into concrete actions that can change reality. After this recent defeat in Houston, the Warriors now have a choice to make. Allow this game to be just another stumble in a difficult season, or transform it into a turning point, a catalyst for significant changes. History teaches us that great teams and great individuals often find in the most challenging moments the fuel for their greatest achievements. Basketball courts, like all professional sports stages, are microcosms of the human experience. There we see dramatized, in real time and under intense pressure, dilemmas and challenges that we all face in different contexts. How to deal with expectations, how to process failures, how to build and maintain confidence, how to balance individual and collective needs, how to persist in the face of adversity. That's why the words of leaders like Curry resonate so deeply. We're not just listening to a frustrated athlete after a defeat. We're witnessing a human being articulating truths that we all, at some point, need to confront. That failure is part of the journey. That honesty is the first step toward change. That individual and collective responsibility go hand in hand. And that, in the end, it's our actions, not our words or intentions, that define who we really are. The Warriors' defeat that night in Houston, seen through this prism, becomes more than a sports result. It becomes a window for us to understand how the mindset of champions works, not only when everything is going well, but especially when everything seems to go wrong. And perhaps it's precisely in the moments of greatest difficulty that the true essence of what it means to be a champion is revealed most clearly. At the end of that interview, with the cameras turning off and journalists dispersing, Steph Curry stood up and walked toward the team bus. His expression was serious, but not defeated. In his eyes was that peculiar mixture of determination and vulnerability that marks true leaders. The defeat is undeniable and painful, but it's already beginning to be metabolized, transformed into fuel for the next challenge. And that's how, beyond defeat, we find the true mindset of champions. Not in the denial of reality, but in the courage to face it. Not in the absence of falls, but in the art of getting up stronger after each one. Not in eloquent speeches about resilience, but in the daily and silent practice of overcoming. It's a message that transcends sport and speaks directly to us about the human condition and our infinite possibilities for transformation and growth.